Good morning. My name is Marie Castellino. I'm the Assistant Commissioner for the Bureau of Early Intervention at the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. I want to start off by thanking the CUNY staff that helped put this together, beginning with Dr. Ashley Thompson and Dr. Angelita Alvarado Santos. Many thanks for bringing us into this room today and allowing us to talk about early intervention and this important work we are doing with CUNY. We started this work July 2013, and we started this work with professionals at Brooklyn College, Dr. April Watley Bedford and Dr. Jacqueline Shannon, Dr. Mary DeBay. All of this work that you're going to hear about regarding the academic partnership took place in the course of 2.5 years, which is really an incredible amount of progress to be made. And we thank CUNY for their efforts. Our program, the New York City Early Intervention Program that you are familiar with, and we're going to be providing you with a little more detail this morning, is responsible for ensuring service delivery to the children that are eligible for the program and receiving the services in New York City. We are also charged with the oversight of early intervention providers and the New York City system in general. And that's why we consider our CUNY partnership to be a crucial linchpin in these efforts to promote quality services in New York City. We know that many CUNY graduates go on to work in the early intervention system, and that CUNY students reflect the diversity of our New York City population. So a strong collaboration between CUNY and our program, their faculty, in preparing these professionals will ensure a well-prepared EI workforce. So let's move into the formal presentation. These are our objectives for you to learn about the program, hear about our quality initiatives, and to hear about the 4 current academic partnerships. The early intervention in New York City. The federal program was established in 1986 as part of IDEA. The federal IDEA Part C that you're familiar with is designed to impact the development of infants and toddlers with developmental delays and disabilities in the context of their families' routines and in natural environments. The goals for the program at the creation in 1986 under IDEA was to promote the development of children and the capacity of their families to meet their child's needs, but also to enhance the capacity of state and local agencies and providers to identify, evaluate, and meet the needs of those children and families, particularly minority, low-income, inner-city, and rural populations. In New York State, the program was established in 1993 in Article 25 of the Public Health Law. It's administered statewide by the State Department of Health and locally in New York City by the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, and we follow the guidance of the federal legislation, which is to address a child's development within the family context, because we know that families play a crucial role in optimizing their child's development. The New York City program established its own mission statement. It was 6 or 7 years ago. We updated our mission statement, and it's in alignment with our federal requirements. Our mission is to enhance the abilities of infants and toddlers with developmental delays and disabilities by supporting their families and caregivers in everyday routines. We know that the earlier, the better. We know that everyone listening in on this webinar knows this too. We know that our goal is to support the families that we provide services to. Once a child is evaluated and found eligible for the program, a team of professionals works with the family to create a service plan that meets their needs. This is the IFSP, or the Individualized Family Service Plan, and the program is provided at no out-of-pocket cost to families, available to all families in all 5 boroughs, regardless of race, ethnicity, income, or immigration status. Our program has been promoting the use of family-centered best practices for the last 6 years, and Jeanette Gong is going to join this presentation in a little while to talk about what we've been doing regarding quality initiatives to promote family-centered best practices. At this point, I wanted to walk you through some of our data for you to understand the scope, the size and the scope of the New York City program. As you can see from this slide, we receive approximately 30,000 referrals a year to our program. And as you know, anyone can refer a child to the New York City Early Intervention Program. This slide will show you the distribution by borough. In the next slide, you will see the children receiving any type of service. So in this slide, you are going to see that we really touch almost 50,000 children and families a year, if you include service coordination, evaluation, and general services. Of those 45 to 50,000 children that receive some type of services, it's about 30,000 a year that receive general services. They've been eligible, been evaluated, been found eligible, and are now receiving services. This translates into many units of services. And you can see here on this slide the distribution of the services that we provide, with a very significant proportion of the services being provided within the area of special instruction, 40% of the services. This translates into approximately 2 million units authorized per year. This is why we are in the room with you. This is why we are talking to you. Besides this very large proportion of services being provided at special instruction, very large proportion provided as speech therapy, also occupational and physical therapy. The 25% of the speech therapy units are over 1 million units a year provided to the 30,000 children. In the next slide, you'll see the EIP process, and this is something that we provide to families as they walk through the program. To give them, this is a roadmap for families, beginning with referral into the program, and keeping in mind, as you all well know, we must have consent from parents. This is a totally voluntary program. It's for children birth to 3, but the families must consent to participation in the program. There are many consent procedures that are taken into consideration at multiple stages. Child is referred into the program, assigned a service coordinator. With the service coordinator, the family will select an evaluation agency. The evaluation will then be done, a multidisciplinary evaluation. The components of that evaluation are determined by the child's area of delay or concern. Once the child is found eligible for the program, and there are some children with particular disabilities that are considered eligible for the program, but they are still evaluated. Once a child is found eligible for the program, the IFSP is set up and a plan is developed based on the participants at the IFSP, which includes the family, the evaluator, service coordinator, and our early intervention official designees, our staff. Services are then identified and the services are provided. The vast majority of the services, as you know, are provided in the natural environments, in the community or home setting, community being even a child care setting. Children are in the program to age 3. There is a transition process which involves our staff, service coordination, and obviously family. So in the next slide, you see the list of the services that I'm sure you're familiar with and the qualified personnel. The services are designed to meet the needs of the child and their family related to enhancing the child's development based on family priorities and the functional outcomes that are developed based on the child's delay or disability. As I said, the vast majority of services are provided in the home and community locations, and they're provided by qualified personnel who are certified or licensed in their profession. We have to, of course, when we're having this kind of discussion, talk about the science of early brain development. This is an extraordinarily exciting and rapidly developing field. We know that children develop in an environment of relationships, and that early childhood experiences affect the quality of the architecture of the brain. We also know that the relationship between the child and the family or caregiver is extraordinarily important. The serve and return relationship that we're hearing more and more about in the scientific literature being extremely important for a child to learn, for a child to develop, and many of these early experiences are going to affect the child long term. We also know that at birth there are many neural connections that are being formed, and some are even being pruned, those that are not being, in a sense, nurtured by this serve and return relationship. So those early years are extraordinarily important. In early intervention, we are aware of the importance of these interactions between parent and child, and really how important this is to influence how children learn and develop. So for us, parents are the key to success. As educators, you know this. We know this in the clinical, in the medical field, in the early intervention field. Parents and caregivers are instrumental in the success of the services we provide. The success of the intervention, since we know how important they are, we know that the success of the interventions depends on the frequency that parents and caregivers can use the strategies that we engage them in during the early intervention sessions. We know how important it is for parents to learn what to do between sessions, and that's been the basis of the work that we've been doing in our Bureau. We are coaching parents. We also know the importance of the natural environments. We know that these are settings that are important for families to use to enhance their child's development. Mealtime, bath time. I talk frequently about a trip to the grocery store as an educational experience for a young child. So what we have been working on is the work that Jeanette is going to talk about is the work that we've been doing to promote embedded coaching or strategies embedded within the routine activities that support children's learning. Providing these natural learning opportunities to practice skills within meaningful context is very important for a child to learn and to develop. It doesn't require special times. It doesn't require special toys or equipment. Taking the laundry out of the dryer can be a learning experience, and that's what our interventionists are really working with the families on. Parents have the power to help their children. The adults that spend the most time with children have the most opportunity to help support their children's learning and development. So, the role of the early interventionists in the early intervention program. We refer to them as interventionists, but this is an array of professionals when we had it on one of the slides. These are the teachers, the special instructors, the physical therapists, the occupational therapists, the nurses, the social workers. Everyone in the program has an important role to play. Early interventionists across the different disciplines should be using evidence-based, family-centered best practice. They should focus on the family's routine activities. Be knowledgeable about typical and atypical early childhood developments. Enhance the caregiver's capacities to support their child's learning and functioning. Understand multicultural and diversity issues, critical for learning. And understand and support the parent-child dyad. I think we have time. We have a short video. Let's go on to Jeanette Gong's presentation, and if we have time at the end of our presentation, we can go back and show you our video, which I think explains it all in 5 minutes.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. So why are we focused so much on interventionists learning about evidence-based best practices? Well, over 10 years ago, the Office of Special Education Programs surveyed early interventionists across the country. And one of the factors they measured was the competence and confidence of EI practitioners across disciplines working with children with disabilities. They found that 5% reported being competent about using family-centered practices, 13% about working in natural environments, 23% about assessment and evaluation, and 39% about collaboration and teaming. So while this OSEP survey was done more than 10 years ago, there's still currently discussion in the field about how to support our early interventionists, our EI professionals, in integrating evidence-based family-centered best practices in their work with children and families. For example, last year in the April and June issue of Infants and Young Children, this journal contained articles across disciplines about what the essential personnel standards and competencies are needed to work in the early intervention and early childhood field. In addition, last year, the Early Childhood Technical Assistance Center, ECTA, created and piloted performance checklists and practice guides for parents and practitioners based on the Division of Early Childhood's recommended best practices. More recently, the New York State Department of Health and Bureau of Early Intervention implemented a state systemic improvement plan to improve outcomes for families in New York State and to enhance the use of family-centered practices by early intervention professionals. In addition, SDOH also identified family-centered best practices in their service provision expectations in their provider agreement for all contracted agencies. So as you see, there's lots of things happening nationwide on the federal level and now on the state level to sort of emphasize the importance of EI professionals and practitioners using evidence-based best practices like family-centered practices, embedded interventions, and using collaborative coaching with families during sessions. So I want to give you some examples of what we mean by family-centered principles. It means sensitivity and respect for the culture and values of individual family members and each family's ecology, activities, and beliefs that are important to them. The early intervention process also, from referral through transition, must be a dynamic one and must be individualized to reflect the child and family members' preferences, their learning styles, and their cultural beliefs. The primary role of the service provider in early intervention, may it be the service coordinator or the early interventionist, is to work with and support family members and caregivers in their child's life. And lastly, the IFSP outcomes must be functional and based on children's and families' needs and priorities. So the relationship between their EI team and the family should be a partnership and a collaborative one. So what I'm going to talk about in this slide is really some of the quality initiatives that we've implemented in the last 6 years. In the learning collaborative trainings, these were in-person trainings that were 6 months long that was provided for over 800 service coordinators, clinical supervisors, early intervention professionals, and administrators. We also recently implemented family-centered practices training module series on our New York City government website that anyone can access. It will be posted very soon on the website, and actually there are CEUs available for physical therapists. In addition to that, we also have structured technical assistance training that we offer to our early intervention provider agencies. And these technical assistance trainings were created specifically for our clinical supervisors and quality assurance managers to support their ongoing professional development of their own interventionists and staff. Also, every year, the New York City Bureau of Early Intervention provides free clinical trainings for our academic partners, our BEI staff, and EI providers on evidence-based best practices and relevant early intervention and early childhood topics. For example, we recently just gave a 3-day training on the use of reflective practice in early childhood, and in March and April of 2016, we're going to be giving a clinical training on bilingual evaluations in early intervention. And we're also planning future trainings on cultural competency. And lastly, as Dr. Castellano mentioned previously, about 2.5 years ago, we began our academic partnerships to build workforce capacity and to support a workforce that uses evidence-based best practices with all our families to support their children's growth and development. So Lydia Letniak will speak next about our academic partnerships.
Thank you, Jeanette. Good morning, everyone. So I have the distinct pleasure of talking about our academic partnerships with CUNY and one SUNY school. So we began our academic partnerships with Brooklyn College's Early Childhood Education and Art Education program, where under the leadership of Jacqueline Shannon and Mary DeBay, they have developed an advanced certificate in early intervention and parenting, which was approved by the State Education Department in August 2014. At SUNY Downstate's occupational therapy program, Beth Alenko is developing an early intervention core curriculum within their graduate OT program. Hunter College's Silverman School of Social Work took a slightly different approach, where under the leadership of Shelley Horowitz, they're developing a multidisciplinary program that will deliver evidence-based best practices to social workers and other professionals interested in working with infants and toddlers through continuing education courses. And finally, our most recent academic partnership is with Queens College Graduate Program in Special Education, Educational and Community Programs, where Drs. Pei-Shi Wang and Sarah Wolf are developing a new integrated Master's of Science in Education in Early Childhood Special Education and Bilingual Education. So the next slide really gives you all of these folks' contact information. So if you want to talk to them about what it's like working with us, you are free to do so. I'm sure that they'll have some interesting and hopefully very nice things to say. What you will notice about what I just said is that each of our academic partnerships is unique. It's different. And because what we've learned is that each college really needs to consider how to make this sustainable. And if there is a champion within the faculty and also in partnership with the administration of the school, they could really figure out how to build something out that could truly be successful. From our perspective, from the Bureau of Early Intervention, we're really looking for a common thread in all of these programs. And that's really 5 things. 1, knowledge of both typical and atypical early childhood development, birth to 3. 2, understanding and considering multicultural and diversity factors when working with families and performing evaluations. 3, understanding and working with the parent-child dyad to support services that are individualized for the child's culture and priorities. 4, using evidence-based family-centered best practices, which is really embedded interventions and collaborative coaching that respects families and builds upon the caregiver's capabilities to help their children. And the fifth, and possibly the most unique, is that in their work with us, we are forming partnerships with early intervention providers and other agencies to offer relevant fieldwork placements. And what's so innovative here is that we're trying to make these fieldwork placements home-based, because most early intervention services occur in the home. So, you know, New York City is always looking for new partners. If you would like to talk with us about what that might look like, please feel free to shoot us an email, or I'm sure you can respond to Ashley and her staff and they can help facilitate those connections as well. So on that note, we want to tell you thank you and ask you if you have any questions.